Hi everyone, and welcome to this brand new Java course. I'm really excited to start with this course, and I welcome all of you to join me in this journey. So one of the question I think you will ask me, what's gonna be new in this Java course? Is there something new you're gonna teach us, which is probably no one knows about it? So the answer is no. Anything or everything which is available in Java is out there, right? You can go through the documentation, read about it, or someone else might have covered. There is no secret things into the Java. It's open there, right? But what I'm gonna cover is my experiences, what I have learned with 20 plus years of my experience, which I have spent into this programming world. So I have learned a few things which I wish I could have learned when I started my journey into the programming, right? So I'm gonna share those details along with I'm gonna cover all the fundamentals and the basics of the Java. But on top of it, I think the one thing which I really want to share is what are the things which we can probably we should be focusing on to the in the beginning, which can make our life easier as a programmer, and that will also help us to navigate the world and probably have a good growth on those ones, right? So I'm going to cover, as I said, basics, as well as I'm going to cover the intermediate levels. So if you are a beginners, I will suggest you to kind of follow me. It's gonna be a more of a discussions, then some practicals, examples, and then some coding exercises all together. All right. Okay. So I think one of the thing is why Java. So you might have seen with in 2024, right? There are so many programming languages out there. With the AI, there is a whole new discussion going on. Okay, that there are new languages coming out. There are new kind of shift that is happening, and you might have seen there are number of people who probably will come and say, "Hey, this language is dead, or there's no future on this one, or this is the future." But that's not the case. Okay, every language has its own strengths. It has its own area where it's gonna shine. Not every language is made for everything. All right, so Java is not something which is made for is gonna do everything, right? So the question is why Java. So there are a number of surveys that happen every year where the programmers around the world will probably vote, okay, which is the language or what they are using, and then they will consolidate it. So you will always or most likely see Java holding the top 4 or 5 positions, right? It might be either on number 3, number 4. At one point, it was number 1, and so on and so forth, right? But on other than that, I think so. Java is still one of the most widely used enterprise language, which means there is a huge job opportunities out there, right? The programming skills in Java are still more in demand, right? In terms of the salaries, it's actually on highest average salaries, and I'm not going to talk about going to compare it with the AIs and other things. That's a whole together new dimensions, right? So let's keep that aside, but still it's a more in demand. Your average salaries are high, and as I said, right, it is still used by almost all the major enterprises. You name it and you will see, even Google, Amazon's, Netflix is a heavy Java uses, right? So that's number one. Number two is the versatility, right? What it means is it's not about, okay, you can only do a certain kind of a things. Think of Java, you can practically use it for anything, starting from your Android is all built, many of us use Android OS, right? Android app development, it's based upon the Java. Web application developments, you can build your web applications using Java. You build your desktop softwares using Java, and then whole sort of a kind of enterprise solutions, right? uh, and what are the key features which kind of set Java apart, right? So you might have heard, or if not, one of the one of the main feature of the Java is the object oriented, right? What it means is everything in Java is basically all your thought process, everything moves around the objects, right? And they basically relates you to your real world things, right? For example, if you think about a house, there probably will be certain things, a room, there might be few other things. So room, house is sort of a, right, or room is sort of an object, right? And then it makes your life easier because then you can think about all these things, and you start building those smaller building blocks to for a larger application, right? So I'm not sure if you have created anything out of Lego blocks, right? So each block in a Lego, right, it has its own purpose, correct? So you are building something into Lego, but if you see those smaller pieces, if though every piece has its own purpose, and when you put together it creates that final that piece, right? So think about Java into the same side. Okay, these different things are the object, and then you use these different objects to build your entire applications. So that's number one. Number two is this is basically one of the kind of, I would say, the strongest feature of the Java is the platform independence, right? There is a mantra in Java which says, write once, run everywhere. So that means you don't have to basically say, okay, if I'm running my program into Windows, is it gonna run on a Linux system? Is it gonna run on to the Mac system? It will. That's basically the beauty of Java, right? So, and we will talk about it. So ultimately the Java codes run into a very special platform, and we call it as a JVM, or a Java virtual machine, right? So it makes sure that, okay, if you write a program into operating system one, for example Windows or Mac or anything else, it basically makes sure that it runs without any issue. You don't have to do anything, right? So JVM, think of a JVM, it acts like a universal translator, right? You don't have to basically tell, okay, in Windows do something like this, step 1 2 3 4, in Linux only do step 1 or 2. So this JVM will take care of everything. All right. Then the ecosystem, right? Uh, as I said, that's it's a widely used enterprise language, so which means it has a rich ecosystem. So when it comes to, for example, if you want to solve a problem, there might be 10 different options available to you, because the ecosystem is so large. So probably a number of people might have faced that problem, right? So you will get a huge collection of pre-built tools and libraries, right? For example, even if I have to do calculations, right, I'm just taking a very simple example, there might be 10 different libraries which is helping you out, right? There is a strong community support. You will if you go to Stack Overflow or you go to any forum, right, if you might have seen that there is a strong or a very huge community of around Java. So if you ask a questions, you will get a lot of answers from people, right? Because as I said, right, the community is really huge. And then the documentation. The documentation is really huge. You don't have to struggle around, okay, what will happen, how this works. Not only the documentation of Java JDK itself is used, but you will find a lot of other resources to understand this one. And the last, I would and we will cover many those in more detail, is the security. This set apart Java apart from other things. So Java has a built-in security feature which makes it ideal for any enterprise applications. Right? It has that the built-in. You don't have to kind of create or think a lot about, okay, how the security will work. Right? You have to, when we talk about web application others, we probably have to talk about authentication, authorization, but when it comes to the security, underlying security, it's built into the JVM, right? Okay. Okay, and then I think probably I want to cover one more thing is Okay, so when it comes to the learning path, which is gonna be, we're gonna outline our course. So there are quite a few things which we're gonna cover. We're gonna cover the basic syntax around Java, right? We will start with the very basics of it. Like then we will gonna cover basic syntax, how to write a basic program, what are the different rules around writing a Java program, different things like variables, data types. There are primitive data types, there are some other data types, right? We're going to cover those one. uh, Operators, how the operators works. Then there are conversions, castings, comment, how to add a comments and other things. So we're going to cover those one. Then we're going to cover about the cores and fundamentals, what I said, right? What are the syntaxes, how the classes, and we talked about the objects, right? So classes, objects, and other things. We are going to cover all those things. Then on top of it, we will also cover control flows. For example, how the conditional logic happens into the Java, like if else statements, then loops, iterations, break and continue statements, and then a simple or a basic error handling mechanism. So there is always a chance that something goes wrong. We will also learn, if something goes wrong, how should we handle it, how should we basically handle those situations in a more graceful way, right? Then we're going to cover more of the object oriented programming, right? Creating a classes, objects, constructors, variables, like methods. There are other things like access modifiers, like public, private, protected. I'm going to also encapsulations, polymorphism, abstractions. I'm also going to cover some of the algorithms and other things, which will be part of a more of a intermediate levels once we learn all the basics and core of the Java, right? So it's going to be exciting journey, as I said. And then I'm it's not like, okay, we're only going to learn all the theory part. As I said, one of my objective for this program is to share with you my experiences, the learning which I have, I learned the things on while I was into the programming. No, I'm into the programming actually. All right. So we're gonna build some real world project, and we're gonna apply all these learning into those real world project. And we will also gonna discuss, okay, why I'm gonna choose this approach versus this approach. Okay, why not this one? Because on theory this looks really interesting, or maybe more flexible, right? Why I'm choosing this one? Because there are certain trade-offs, and so there are certain things which you learn while you actually are implementing into those in the real world situations. All right. Okay. And again, I think I'm gonna answer this question once. So again, why this course? Number one, as I said, we're gonna start from absolute basics. I'm not gonna assume that you know something about Java. I'm gonna assume that you don't know, you want to learn about it. So we will start building our fundamentals from that basics, right? Gonna use some real world examples. I'm not gonna take some textbooks examples. I'm gonna take, so if let's say if I'm gonna cover exceptions, right? I'm not gonna say, okay, if exception happens, do this. We're gonna take some real world examples, we're gonna build on top of it, and then we will also gonna discuss, okay, why I'm choosing this certain type of exception, why not this type of exceptions. Don't worry if you are not getting it. We will gonna discuss this one, but all I'm trying to say is it's gonna be what we have learned, or what you actually gonna face when you get into the programming, right? And my focus for this course is more of a practical or a hands-on experience rather than just kind of a moving around the theory. All right. And then what I've learned as part of the industry, I'm going to share all those industry best practices, whatever I have learned, and then you can continue your journey from there on. All right, so I'm really excited for this one, and I hope that you're gonna continue this journey. I'm very positive that you're gonna learn at least few things out of this course, which will be helpful when you start your programming journey. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you have the contact details, as well as I'm available onto the Twitter. But you can, if you have any question, just shoot out the email to contact us at the rate of javadevjournal.com, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Once again, thanks for joining this course. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to the channel.